Hi guys, this is just a little Blender tutorial I was going to do. Here we go. Just an introduction to using the physics system. I'm afraid they're doing some road works outside at the moment, so you can maybe hear some sawing. I'll say 50% of the time when people are doing a YouTube video and they say excuse the background noise, you can't hear any background noise. But I bet you can in this case. Anyway, so we've started up Blender, gone into the basic default scene, middle button to rotate the whole scene, mouse button to zoom in, zoom out. Okay, so the thing with the physics system is some people might be intimidated because it sounds like a complicated thing to get involved with. But it's really very simple. In fact, I'll show you how fast it is to get into the physics system. So what we'll do is we'll take this default cube and we'll apply physics to it. So just down here, select physics properties and then add a rigid body to the cube. So we select the cube because you might have lots of objects in your scene, but we'll select the cube, select rigid body, and then I'll just expand this so we can see the whole timeline just by dragging it. If we press play, you'll see then the cube falls under gravity. So it's as simple as that to get started with the physics system. We'll go a little bit further with it, just to do a little bit more with it. But so what I'll do is I'll lift that cube up. The way we do that is we press G to grab it, and then I'll press Z to restrict movements to the Z axis, which in Blender is up and down. There we go. Just lift it up a bit. There we go. In fact, yeah, that'll do. So again, we just go like that with the timeline and it'll fall down. Every time round I'll reset the timeline by just jumping to the beginning again. There we go. One thing you can do is once you've gone through a physics simulation is you can step forwards and backwards using the timeline, even with quite complex scenes with things falling all over the place. You can do that. So we'll give it something to fall onto to stop it. So the way we'll do that is add we could have a plane. That might sound like the most obvious thing to do, but we want to have a bit of thickness to the floor because the physics system works better if you do that. So we'll just add a cube to the scene like that. We've got a cube, and then what we'll do is first of all we'll squash that. So we press S to scale. Of course you could use these tools here if you wanted. In fact, I'll do it that way. I'll just use the scale tool and then squash this flat, and then we've got to drag it out that way and then drag it out that way, and you see we've got a floor for the whole thing to fall onto. But if we just start it, the problem is it falls through the floor because the floor that we've created doesn't exist in the physics system. Tell you what, let's just call that floor. Good idea as you're going along just to name things. It just takes a few seconds, but it's well worth it. So anyway, going back to what I was saying, this floor doesn't exist in the physics system, so we'll add a rigid body to that. So now it exists in the physics simulation. So now if I press play, they both fall. So what we do is we just make sure we're selecting the floor. You can select it by clicking on it, of course, or selecting it there. So we'll select the floor and then say that that's not dynamic. Okay. In fact, I'm going to move this up a little bit higher. Again, press G to move it, Z to limit it to the Z axis, and then here we go. that falls there, and then sure enough that falls like that. That's not very interesting the way it fell. Let's go back to the beginning. One thing we could do is rotate that cube. Here we go, so it falls at a bit more of a inconvenient angle. There we go, so a bit of physics there. Tell you what we'll do, we'll go in a bit closer, and here we go. Well, we can just step backwards and see everything it did. Look, it went like that. So there we go, the physics system's up and running. I'll tell you what would happen if we duplicate that cube. So what we'll do now, as I say, this is very handy having this timeline here, and you can step through things, but always make sure that you're putting it back to frame 1, or things will get very confused. So what we do is press Shift D. Let me just re-rotate that because I've just gone back a stage. Here we go. Right, so Shift D to duplicate it. Then we've got another one. We'll put another one over here, and this physics engine can handle a huge amount. This is not even going to begin to push it, what it can do in real time. So then if we play it, there we go. They all fall a little bit differently.